Hello everybody, and welcome to my long-awaited video that I have long awaited to make. This is going to be the Elden Ring weapons tier list. Now, I've used quite a bit of varying weapons in my PvP series as far as the invasions and the duels have gone, so now I am going to rank them. But here is the upside and downside. As you can see by the weapons here, we're not doing stabs, we're not doing bows, we're not doing ballistas, cestus, seals. This is all just straight up weapons. And specifically, these are the somber smithing stone weapons. I was going to make a tier list that had every weapon in the game, but by the time I had added them, it told me I was only allowed to do 160 max, and I think I had about 290. So I thought about ways to trim it up. I took all the stabs, seals, cestuses, and bows and ballistae off of the list, and there was still too many. So it looks like we are going to be splitting it probably. I'm gonna do a. This is the first tier list, obviously, and this is all of the somber stone weapons, all the special weapons, the boss weapons, etc. Apologies if I missed a few on the list. It took a very long time already to gather up all of these images from the wiki and download them all and name them and put them in. They're not named on here. I have a little file open so that I know which each is in order so that I don't get mixed up here. And let's move on to the tiers. So we have the S tier. You will witness true horror, of course. We have I command thee kneel in the A tier. We have thou art unfit even to wield in the B tier. And then C tier, put these foolish weapons to rest. We do not want that garbage. Don't even pull that shit out. I'm gonna parry your ass. And then we have never used it. And unfortunately, I would say at least 10% of these are going to fall into the didn't use it category. But you know, that says something on its own. So without further ado, we are going to get into the first one here. And this first one is the Alabaster Lord Sword. Now, I believe the Alabaster Lord Sword is a sword that you get in Rot Lake, or you might be able to get it from the other Alabaster Lord that's in Raya Lucaria. This sword, it's not bad. It is a great sword, so I believe it does have the slow greatsword moveset. The weapon art for this one is Alabaster Lord's Pull. I believe that's just pretty much Gravitas, but I think it has a greater area of effect. So I'm not gonna dig into this one particularly. I have used this weapon, not in PvP. I guess I should preface this first off by what we're going to be ranking them on. The weapons are going to be ranked on dueling potential, invasion potential, speedrunning potential, and general PvE game potential. So with that being said, I am going to just toss the Alabaster Lord Sword in Thou Art Unfit Even to Wield. That doesn't mean it's the best, and it doesn't mean it's the worst, obviously. It's just a good middle ground to start with. And the second weapon is going to be the Axe of Godric. Actually, that looks, I think I'm lost already. No, that's Godfrey's Axe. First one is Godfrey's Axe, the second one is Godric's Axe. So, Godfrey's Axe, I am going to instantly put this weapon to rest. Here is why. I have used this weapon. I, in fact, even tried to make a video of it for invasions and duels and ended up scrapping both. This weapon is extremely slow. It has a very small hitbox because of the way that it actually swings overhead. It does have the weapon art, however, in my experience, nobody has ever been able to hit me with this weapon art in PvP, and likewise, I have never been able to hit somebody with this weapon art in PvP. And it doesn't seem like it would do that much either way. So, that is the good reason for that. Then we are going to go for the Axe of Godric, obviously, here. And the Axe of Godric, I do think is a little bit better. And as funny as it may be, this is not going to be in the I Command Thee Kneel category. This is going to be right next to the Alabaster Lord's Sword. Unfit even to wield. It has the skill, I Command Thee Kneel. But all that does is make a shockwave on the ground, which shockwaves are pretty easy to dodge. Bastard Stars. That is a magical flail from Estelle, of course. Now, I am going to put this one in the top of Thou'rt Unfit Even to Wield, and the reason for this, I think this is a very fun weapon. I think it has a cool weapon art, though I have tried it quite a bit in PvP. They can see you charging up the weapon art pretty easily. It does good damage if it hits, but the rest of it, I mean, personally, I think the flail moveset is the worst moveset in the game. Every flail I've tried to use, same with hand axes, they just don't do well in PvP. They're really easy to dodge out of. They don't have the range to roll catch people. This one, it's a little bit better, but it's not going to compare to a similar weapon like Wings of Estelle, which is definitely going to be in a better tier. Black Knife, I'm going to keep it real with you. I have never used it, but I'm not going to put it in the never used it tier because I am familiar with how this weapon works. So, the Black Knife is quite good actually. It is a dagger, it's got a fast moveset. I believe it might, I'm not positive, it may apply bleed. But it's similar to the Blade of Calling in the fact that it gives you a big boost of hyper armor when you're in the air using the ability, which is I think what the Blade of Death does for this, right? It's kind of like Blade of Calling, but maybe a Blood Blade or so. Not super hard to find, it's an Altus Plateau, and it's basically all it's got going on. I mean, it's a fine weapon, so I'm going to put it in the top of B tier. Now, don't you worry, the A and the S tier are going to get plenty of love, and it's going to start right now because I already know the shape of that next weapon, and the next weapon is the Blade of Calling. The Blade of Calling, that's going right in I Command V Kneel at the top. Super solid weapon. If you saw my parrying.exe video where I used Misericord and Blade of Calling, I mean, this thing hits like a train. I believe it has a 130 crit. Now, 130 crit on its own makes it really good in PvP, but I've actually used this weapon in PvP as well, and it's really not bad. The Blade of Gold weapon art does totally fine damage. You get it at the Forbidden Lands, so it's one of those late game banger type weapons. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Just wait till we get to Rivers of Blood. As much as I don't respect the weapon in any kind of way, it's obviously going in S tier. And speaking of S tier, we have our first one, and that is the Blasphemous Blade. I mean, there's not even much to say about this one. The weapon art is incredible. It casts pretty quick. It heals you on kill, does insane stagger. It's got really good hyper armor. It has a good base moveset as well. It's one of those light greatswords, I believe, similar to like a claymore. I believe it has the claymore moveset. And this weapon can wipe out actual whole groups of people. If you've seen my Blasphemous Blade Wombo Combo Extravaganza video, I mean, I'm really just spamming the weapon art and people die. Most of the time in one single hit of the weapon art. So, top of the A tier, that goes to you. Next up, I believe that is, yep, the Bloodhound Fang. Bloodhound Fang, it's going below Blade of Calling, but it is going to be in the I Command the Kneel tier. This is an extremely good weapon, and I haven't even used it, but I'll tell you that I probably see it every 5 invasions or less. And I believe that's the one with it's got the Bloodhound step built in, which is just an insane feature of any weapon in this game. So I'm fine putting that below Blade of Calling. I'm sure a lot of people would put it far above the Blade of Calling, maybe even an S tier, but this is my tier list, of course. And feel free to use this tier list. I am going to have the link down to the tier list in the description. Make your own video with it if you'd like. No big deal. I don't care. Next up, we have Bloody Helix. I know that model anywhere. Actually, I think I know most of these without even looking at them at this point. I think we got Helix, Gransax. That one, I'm not positive. Oh, I think I have a Scepter in here. Oops. I mean, it is a somber weapon, so that's fine. I'll keep that in here. Carrion Regal Scepter. Didn't want to put every staff in, but that's a boss weapon, so that's fair. So Bloody Helix, that's another weapon that is going to go in I Command the Kneel. It is going to the top, though. That was my last video I made, bloodyhealist.exe. Ridiculous weapon. I mean, it's got a built-in parry, the back step, and then the lunge forward stab, and then it has a third part where you do another stab and then like a little sweeping slash. This thing is crazy. It bleeds, it has a great moveset, it's fast, and here is the more upside to it. If you're good at parrying in PvP, Bloody Healus isn't an issue. You can parry it extremely easily. But if you're good with Bloody Healus, you can do a lot to fuck with your opponent the whole time you're fighting them. Next up, Bolt of Grandsax. Another one that's going in I Command Thee Kneel. It's going below Bloody Healus but above the Blade of Calling. This weapon is strong. It's a very good spear, built-in lightning damage. The build I was using for it when I PvP'd with it, I had the lightning boost physique flask. I had the lightning boost talisman as well. I believe I had the piercing talisman as well. Maybe a dagger talisman as well, or a bull goat. Those are the four I usually cycle through in PvP. The bull goat, the dagger, the piercing talisman, any of the source seals. I mean, I don't mind taking extra damage if I get a little extra damage out of it myself. So Bolt of Grandsax, incredible. The weapon art, I mean, you throw a red lightning spear, which lightning spears aren't super good by themselves in PvP. Obviously, we've been dealing with lightning spears since, you know, the first of the games. I don't recall Demon Souls maybe having a lightning spear, but I know Dark Souls 1, 2, 3 all had lightning spears. Elden Ring has lightning spears. Everyone knows how to dodge them, but the good part is if somebody is casting a longer animation, you can a lot of the time, like what I did a couple times in my video, you can just run away and cast it, and they'll get pretty much one shot by it during their animation, whatever they're doing. So that earns its spot. And the next one is Carrion Regal Scepter. I'm gonna toss it in S tier because it's my favorite staff in the game. I only have one intelligence build currently, and I don't like to play on it as much because sorcery feels a little bit cheesy for PvE, and for me it's not that fun to use in PvP or to play against. But we're going to be judging this one mainly on its PvE potential because I don't really PvP with it, but PvE wise, this is an insane weapon. Once you get past the requirement, which is pretty steep for it, it really, after being upgraded, just buffs the hell out of your sorceries. I mean, I was able to, you know, do the Commodazur one-shot for the entire playthrough on every single boss in the game. I think I might have even one or two-shotted Elden Beast with it. So it's a quality weapon. Next, we have a Cypher Pata, which is the weapon you get in the round table when you first start if you jump off the balcony. I am going to put this in the bad tier. I had, on my Faith character that I ended up using Blasphemous Blade with, I started out using Cypher Pata, and that just made my game so not fun for so long. It is a very boring weapon. It doesn't really have a lot going on. It's very short range, and it doesn't do a lot of stagger. So that's pretty much all there needs to be said about that. And then we have the Coated Sword, and the Coated Sword I've never used, so it's straight up going in the never used it category. And then we come to the Commander Standard, which, while a weapon I have not used, I know what it does, and I've seen it used by other people on YouTube actually, so I am going to put this one into the bottom of the B tier. It's a fine weapon. I think it gives you a damage boost with the Ash of War, which is the only reason that I'm actually putting it here to begin with. And I think that's a fair reason. Let's move on. The next one is the Crystal Knife, followed by the Crystal Spear, followed by the Crystal Sword. So with all these crystal weapons, and I think that's Death Ritual Spear after. Yeah, I see some good ones coming. Crystal Knife, we're going to put that to rest. The Crystal Spear, I actually used this for a full playthrough. I'm going to put it right above the Alabaster Lord's Sword and below Bastard Stars. They're both just good int scaling weapons. And then you get to the later game version one, the normal Crystal Sword, which I believe is a short sword that also does magic damage, and that one's going to go right below the spear. Pretty much for sheer range difference. I mean, in my mind, all three of these weapons are the same, but the dagger has the shortest range, the sword has the second shortest, and the spear is quite good because of its range. And honestly, the piercing of the Ash of War, it really does significant damage and stagger to bosses. So we're just going to leave it like that. And we come to the Death Ritual Spear, which I dual wielded with the Crystal Spear toward the end of my playthrough after I killed the Deathrite Bird for it. I do not like the Death Ritual Spear. I do not think its Ash of War is very good. Pretty much just used it to power stance. So I'm going to put that above the Crystal Knife. And above, actually, I'll put it in the top of the bad tier. Because I don't think it's worse than Godfrey's Axe, or I think it's better than Godfrey's Axe and Cypher and Crystal. We then get Death's Poker, which I've seen in PvP many times. I'm going to put it right below the Black Knife. It's quite good. The weapon art has a nice variability to it. The way you can either do the stationary explosion Dark Bomb, or you can do the Dark Path of Flames, which, I mean, you can really do some creative maneuvering with it to catch your opponent off. You know, you cast the trail where they're going to be, you cast the bomb when they're coming in on you, and if it does land, it will do a lot of damage. The next one we have is the Devourer Scepter, which I also don't remember putting on here, but never used it. Get the fuck out of here. And then we come to just about my favorite weapon in the game here, which is the Darkmoon Greatsword, and that one is going to go to the very top. Top of You Will Witness True Horror tier. This weapon is truly something special in Elden Ring. I mean, I played Demon Souls, I played Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, I played Bloodborne all when they came out over the past half of my lifetime. The Moonlight Greatsword is a special weapon in all of the games, truly speaking. It does the bolt damage, first of all, which if you're at like 50 int, the bolt charged two-handed will do nearly 2000 damage. It staggers every boss ridiculously. You can pretty much just spam the bolt and you're going to win the fight, which is how my first playthrough went before I think it was the first like week and a half of the game. I was just really going in on trying to find where the Moonlight Greatsword was, because I wanted that to be the first weapon that I used throughout the playthrough. And obviously you have to go through Ronnie's long quest to get it, but it is every bit worth it for this thing. Oh my god. It's got that beautiful Claymore moveset despite being such a big sword. It does incredible magic damage, great stagger. It's fun in PvP as well. So we're leaving it right there. Then we come to, I think this is the Dragon Great Claw. Yes. And that one is going to go to the bottom of I Command Thee Kneel tier. Now here is why. I don't use this as a main hand weapon, actually. This weapon, I like to use it as an offhand with another Colossal. Does, again, incredible stagger damage, and we're going to come up on it soon, but I actually like to use Giza's Wheel in my right hand, and the Dragon Great Axe. Right, that's what it's called. Dragon Great Claw. Ooh, excuse me, the Great Claw. I've had a little too much Red Bull. Let's have some more. Now, the Dragon Great Claw, not that good by itself, but it's definitely good when it's paired with other weapons. You just get incredible stagger out of it, and it's as simple as that. And I can tell these next four by looking at them. This is the Dragon King's Cragblade. Thank you so much, by the way, for all the support on the Dragon King's Cragblade video. It is currently my most viewed video. And it has my favorite song, Blue Zenith, in it. We are going to put that right above Blasphemous Blade and below the Darkmoon Greatsword. And I'm biased against the Darkmoon Greatsword, so don't think that maybe anything will beat it. But Dragon King's Cragblade is incredible. The weapon art, if you've seen the video, you know, it has aimbot. You hold the weapon art, and you fly across the field and just one-shot whatever you're aimed at, basically. It's really good, especially... I haven't even dueled with this thing. This is strictly like invading ganks. This is an S tier weapon. You can walk into a group of people and just start spamming the weapon art, and you're going to start wiping groups. I think it can even hit 2 or 3 people at once if they're close enough together, and it will one-shot them. You do not need more than one charged attack of this thing. So we're leaving it there. Next one, that's the Dragon Scale Blade. In my opinion, I know Moonveil and Rivers of Blood are really cheesy, easy weapons, obviously, and everyone's using them, but this one, this is my S tier katana for sure. And I'm gonna put it above the Carrion Regal, below Blasphemous Blade. I mean, this katana's insane. It does built-in lightning damage. Um, I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna actually have to look this one up because I believe this one has a lot going on real quick. But let's start with the weapon art. The weapon art, you do the lightning bomb slam down or ice lightning sword. That's what it is. You do ice lightning sword. You slam it down. You get a buff on your blade. By itself, it just does physical damage actually, but you then get lightning damage as well once you use the weapon art. So you can combo that with things like the lightning talisman, like I did in my Dragon Scale Blade PvP video, and you can also use the physique tier for lightning damage as well, and it will really buff the hell out of the weapon art. It's got the good classic katana moveset. I think it's got a good heavy attack. It has a good general moveset, and it's got a B scaling index, so there's really nothing not to love. Other than the fact that you have to fight the Dragonkin soldier in the Lake of Rot, who is an asshole. So we are going to leave that there. This is the Eclipse Shuttle, I believe. Yes. And never used it. I don't really like using the shuttles that much. I don't think they're very fun weapons. I think they suffer from the same problem as the hand axes in that I think they don't have enough range. And so that just really makes them not enjoyable. Moving on. Eleonora's Pole Blade. This one we are going to put it above Bloodhound Fang and below the Blade of Calling because this is a fun weapon. It's pretty strong and it does good bleed, and of course you can use double twin blade and it becomes, honestly, S tier if you do. But it's got a fun weapon art. You jump through the air, spin, and do your little Star Wars combo. That's about all we have to say about Eleonora's Pole Blade. This is, I think, the Envoy's Great Horn, right? Which does, I think, is this the one with the Great Oracular Bubble? That is the one with Great Oracular Bubble. So, you blow some bubbles. Have fun. And then we come to the Envoy's Horn, and the Envoy's Longhorn, and guess where these are going? To rest. Anyway, moving on from that trash. The Falling Star Beastjaw. This weapon, I actually don't see it very often, but from some people that I've heard, this is like a meta-defining weapon. Apparently, you can really one-shot people with the Falling Star Beastjaw. I did not experience that when I tried to use it myself. It didn't seem like, even if I hit the weapon art fully, that it even did that much. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and put it above Death's Poker and below the Black Knife. I think that's a fair spot for it to sit at. And it is unfit to wield. Next up we have a good rapier. This is the Frozen Needle. Frozen Needle, pardon me. We are going to put that above the Dragon Great Claw, and we're going to put it below the Bloodhound Fang. Sorry, throat's getting a little scratchy as I don't usually talk this much in any of my single videos, and we still have a lot to go here as well, so... Roses is it? Now. This is the Gargoyle Black Axe. Not a weapon I respect at all, and I haven't used it, so it's going to go to the bottom of the never used it. Keep in mind, the ones I've never used, I'm still ranking them based on what I know about them, so these picks still stand. Giza's Wheel. You will witness true bloodborne horror from this weapon. I mean, it's basically, it's a duplicate. It's the pizza cutter. It's the pizza cutter we all know and love. Actually, that goes above Regal, and it goes above the Dragon Scale Blade. These four are some of my most favorite in the game, no doubt about it. One of the best, two of the best Faith weapons. I think Dragon King's Cragblade's a Faith weapon. The best int weapon, one of the best strength weapons. And then we come to the Ghost Flame Torch. I do have torches in here, only the somber ones, so I think Saint Trina's Torch and the Ghost Flame Torch. Ghost Flame Torch is fun in PvP. I'm gonna put it in the bottom of Thou Art Unfit Even to Wield, as it's mostly just fun. It doesn't have super practical value. However, the Giant Crusher, on the other hand, I will embarrassingly say that I've never used the big bonk weapon, but I know it is incredible, and it's actually going to go right below Blade of Calling. It's got insane stagger. I know people dual wield it, and I've literally been one shot from 2,000 health with people dual wielding jumping attacks on these weapons. It hits like a monster. So that's a fair spot. Kneel and be gone. We have the Giant's Red Braid next. Now, the whips are special in this game, in that they have the same problem for people facing them as Colossals, in that you can't parry whips. And automatically, if it's a whip, it has to go in at least B tier for me. Top of B tier. If you're using the Giant's Red Braid or Hoslow's Whip, which we have here, if you're using those and I invade you and I'm going for parries, I'm leaving your world, straight up. I'm not going to deal with your nonsense. I'm not going to deal with your spam power stance to whip attacks that you can't parry. Same as if I'm not going to deal with your crouch spamming colossal exploit. So that goes to the top just for the fact that it has that unfair aspect. Personally, I think you should be able to parry whips and colossals, but I can understand the design choice. Next we have Glintstone Chris. I believe this is a dagger, and you get it from Selen's quest. This dagger is quite good, and I believe it actually has the crystal dart built into it, so that's going to go to the top right above the braid. Now we get to a very strong weapon in PvP. This is the Godskin Peeler and the Godskin Stitcher. Both of these weapons are going to go to the top of the A tier for very good reason. I see these weapons every 3 or 4 people I invade. They're using 2 Stitchers or they're using 2 Peelers. It does insane power stance damage, first of all. And if that wasn't enough, I don't remember if it's both, but I know at least one of them does bleed. And if you're power stancing them, the bleed procs instantly. As soon as you do that jumping double swing with these weapons, your opponent is dead. So, top of the A tier, very fair. It's still not quite an S tier banger for me. Now, I've heard a lot of praise from this next weapon, and this is the Godslayer Greatsword. And I've used the Godslayer Greatsword as well, and I do agree, it is a very strong weapon. It is going to go right below the Stitcher and the Peeler. Now, most of the Greatsword picks for me aren't going to be that high up. This one will, as it actually swings a little faster than most of the normal Greatswords do. It's got a good weapon art, it can catch people in PvP, and it has a good amount of hyper armor built into it. And there's some good buffs you can use, I think, to buff the damage, like, I think there's something that buffs Black Flame damage, and there's also something that buffs, I don't know. Moving on. Next we have Golden Epitaph. We have the Golden Halberd and the Golden Order Sword. I've never used any of them, however, I will put these two in the never used it tier, and I will put the Golden Halberd actually in A tier. Now, why am I doing that? Golden Halberd is a weapon that when the game came out, everybody was pretty much using it who could defeat the first Tree Sentinel. If you could defeat the first Tree Sentinel early on, then this weapon was pretty incredible as a weapon for you. I think it has a built-in buff, and it might also do lightning damage, but I'm not positive on that. Moving on, we have the Grafted Blade Greatsword. This is not a great sword that I respect. And just like the Grafted Dragon, we are going to put it in Thou Art Unfit Even to Wield. Both at the bottom. The Grafted Dragon, actually, you know what? No. Grafted Dragon is terrible. The Grafted Dragon goes in the very bottom. Put that weapon to rest. Grafted Blade, I've seen it a couple times. I have never in PvP, invasion or duel-wise, seen somebody use the Grafted Dragon. It is worthless. It's a fun weapon. It's like you're playing RuneScape and you're dueling with the rubber chicken. And we're moving on. The next one is the Halo Scythe. The Halo Scythe is a strong PvP weapon, and I see it semi-regularly. We're going to put it right above Frozen Needle, below Bloodhound Fang, and the rest of these killer weapons, of course. I think that next one might be the Hand of Melania. It is. Now, this weapon is going in A tier. It's going to go below Grand Sax, but above Blade of Calling, and here is why. Hand of Melania is not the best in duels. It's got a really easy tell. I mean, everyone who's fought Melania is not going to get really caught by this weapon art. This weapon art shines in, if you've seen my Hand of Melania video, surprise turning the tables on gankers, essentially. If you invade a world, I shit you not, if you invade a world and you let 3 invaders chase you around and you just find a tight spot in some corner, as soon as you get in that corner and see them behind you, you cast this weapon art and turn around and lock on, you're obliterating the entire party of players. I have done it many times. It's probably one of the most satisfying things ever. Like shooting somebody off in the Anne Orlando rafters with a great bow satisfying. It's a fun weapon to use. And I'm sure everyone who fought Melania wanted to use this weapon art extremely badly and had to run the gauntlet to get her soul. Next up, we have Helfin Steeple. Yeah, Helfin Steeple. That is a great sword as well, and it does have a pretty good weapon art. I'm going to drop it to the middle of the B tier. I never really see this weapon in PvP. I know it has some use cases in PvE for being generally okay, but you don't get it until Mountaintops of the Giants. I'm pretty sure the Tibia Mariner next to Castle Soul drops it, and that's just too late. Too little too late. And then we have Haslow's Pedal Whip, which is a weapon that is catastrophic in PvP. It's going to the top of A tier. And it's going to the top of A tier. I mean, it's got hyper armor, it has stagger, it's got a good move set. I think it does bleed as well. I mean, it looks like it would do bleed. It's like a thorned whip. Everybody who uses this weapon strictly does it power stanced with either another one of itself, or they use one Giant's Red Braid and one Haslow's Whip. Both are incredible. I need some Red Bull. Give me a moment. Not sponsored, by the way. Please sponsor me, Red Bull. Anyway, next up, we have the Ice Rind Hatchet. And the Ice Rind Hatchet is going to go to the middle of A tier for mostly its speedrunning potential. This is the speedrunning weapon. You can get the Ice Rind axe. It has the Hoarfrost Stomp Ash of War built into it, which is incredible for killing and staggering pretty much every boss in the game. Though I think they did nerf it, and I think it didn't even matter that they nerfed it. It still seems like it's a speedrunning powerhouse. I've seen it in PvP even a few times. It's not the worst weapon. Sometimes it's power stance with another axe, and it's pretty much the exception to the rule of axes being bad, in my opinion. The Ice Rind Hatchet is decent. It's got a good Ash of War, it's got built-in ice damage, you find it really early in Liurnia, which gives it that early game invading potential. So an all-around quality weapon, for sure. Next up, we have the Inseparable Sword. I'm not going to give any opinion on this one. I actually just learned that this sword existed like a couple weeks ago, even though I got the Platinum 2 or 3 weeks after the game came out. The Inseparable Sword, you apparently get through D's questline after you give him the armor at the end of Fia's questline, and I only ever did Fia's questline minus D's part just to fight Lich Dragon for the plat. So, I never experienced this. I might at some point though, and I might do PvP with it because it seems like it's a pretty cool weapon actually. But anyway, next up we have the Ivory Sickle. And the Ivory Sickle, I've never used it either. So, goodbye. Then we come to the Lazulia Glintstone Sword. And Lazuli Glintstone Sword is actually a pretty decent weapon for PvE, however I have never seen it in PvP. So, similar to the Glintstone Chris, and I think you get it also a part of Selen's questline, we're just going to drop that in the B tier. Then we have Loretta's Sickle. That's what that's looking like. Yep. Loretta's Sickle. Loretta's Sickle is a pretty solid weapon, actually. The weapon art is fun to use, and it really can catch people if you're not careful about it. I'm going to put it in A tier, but I'm going to put it in the very bottom of A tier. And then we come to one of the best weapons in the entire game, and one of the rarest as well. This weapon is Magma Blade. Now, Magma Blade only drops from 2 enemies in the game, and I believe it is a 0.1 or a 0.5% chance of getting it to drop. I got very lucky. I wanted to do the Magma Blade video, and I got all my stuff geared up to farm Magma Blade, and then suddenly I realized, damn, this thing's got a really low drop rate. I could be dry for hours on this. And as someone who plays RuneScape, I'm definitely no stranger to being dry on a rare drop. So I gave up for a little while. I came back to Volcano Manor to grab the Dagger Talisman for one of my videos, killed the Lizardman on the way, and it dropped it. So I immediately pivoted and made the Magma Blade video, and it is one of my favorites. This weapon gets a 2nd place spot, right below the Darkmoon Greatsword. This weapon I cannot even speak enough about. First of all, it's just a dagger. So it's like the Blade of Calling. It's like the Glintstone Chris. But this weapon, it's got built-in fire damage. It's got great stagger. It has a really clean, fast dagger moveset. And the weapon art, I shit you not, it does not matter how much poise your opponent has. If you spam this weapon art, they are taking so much tick damage at once from the pools of magma you're creating that they cannot help but get staggered. I mean, you can see in my Magma Blade PvP video, sometimes I use it and it just kills them immediately from full health. Like two little spins of the Magma Blade and they're dead, like over 1,000 health in. Similarly, here's the Magma Whip Candlestick, it's called, I believe. Yes. Drops from another enemy in the same area, not quite as good. Or no, it doesn't drop from him. This is the Patches quest weapon. And it's going to go... I think it counts as a whip, so I'm just going to put it with the Giant's Red Braid. I'm sure they're pretty similar. Then we get the Magma Worm Scale Sword, which I think is from Magma Worm Makar in Ruinstone Precipice. This weapon's not very good. I did try it out in PvP, and I didn't find much success with it, but I will put it above Godric's Axe and below the Alabaster Lord's Sword. We're doing pretty good here. We have quite a bit left, but I'd say we're probably halfway. Next, that looks like Malekith's Blade. It is Malekith's Blade. Okay. Malekith's Blade's fun. It's another one of those weapons like Hand of Melania where it's a gank stomper. If you can land the AoE blood slashes before getting staggered out of it, so it's really good with something like a Bullgoat's Talisman and high poise armor. I'm gonna put it to the top of A tier, but below Hoslow's Whip, because I really believe Hoslow's Whip is better. Then we have the Mantis Blade. I think this is a dagger that does poison damage. That's lame. Bottom of B tier. It's a weapon that I considered using for PvP for a bit, and it just seemed really weak and underwhelming. As much as I wanted some of the poison weapons to be not overwhelming, I did not get my wish, for the most part. Other than the Serpent Bone Blade, which I think is a somber weapon, so we should get to it, but I could be wrong. It could be a normal one. That looks like Mirai's sword, and it is. Okay. Mirai's Executioner sword. This got buffed, actually, and I've had people use the weapon art on me in PvP and kill me from full health with one weapon art, so it's going in the A tier at the top, above Hoslow's Whip even. Honestly, it's the same with, and I'm going to just do it right now because I believe it's this weapon. We're going to put Regalia of the Eokid in the same place with it, because I believe they both have the same Phantom Blade weapon art. Then we have Marika's Hammer. I'm pretty good at guessing the silhouettes of a lot of these. We have Marika's Hammer, that's, you know, undeniable. That's going to go to just the top of B tier. I think it's better than the Lazuli Glintstone Blade and the Glintstone Chris, and I think it's better than these whips. it's one of those weapons that everyone kind of knows the weapon art at this point. You can still get caught off by it, and if you do, it will do about 2/3 of your health, roughly. But if you know how to dodge it from fighting Radagon enough times, this weapon's not gonna. You're not gonna struggle with this whatsoever. And next up, we have the Meteoric Ore Blade. Now, this is a magic katana that I believe you get in the Caelid Ruins. So you can get it pretty early on, which I will factor that in. It does good damage early on, and it has gravitas built in as well. I'm quite certain that's this katana that has gravitas. But again, it's not something I ever see in PvP. So we are going to put it. We'll put it with the crystal swords and spear. And you know what? Actually, I'll put it right below bastard stars. That seems fair. Oh baby! And now we come to 3 S tier weapons in a row. So we have Mogwin's Sacred Spear, which, holy shit, right above Dragon King's Cragblade. If you saw my video, this weapon eviscerates everybody. When you hold it up in the air, it's like you are praying for the death of every enemy in a 30-yard radius. It does colossal bleed damage. I mean, the bleed bar just fills as soon as you start casting this. It instantly starts staggering everything around you. It's good for bosses. You can use this to cheese Malenia. I mean, it's that good of a weapon. If you summon Mimic with Mogwin Spear and you use Mogwin Spear, you'll just back-to-back spam the bleed. It's infinite stagger and bleed procs. It's great in PvP for ganks. Like I said with Hand of Malenia, if you get people in a tight space, or even just those people that'll start ganking you as soon as you spawn on top of the ground and they're around you, just cast this immediately and you will wipe their entire health bar. It's crazy. Moonveil. Moonveil's next. Now, I don't respect Moonveil, but I do respect it a little bit more now that I have learned recently that you can parry the weapon art. Now, the weapon art spam is the worst part about this, so the fact that you can parry it actually has really made me change my mind, and I kind of think this is a pretty fair weapon in PvP. Same with Rivers of Blood. When I get to that down here, Rivers of Blood, it's not gonna be as good as you think it's gonna be, essentially, because there are counters, and a weapon with a counter is not necessarily always going to be an S tier weapon in my eyes. So Moonveil, it is going to be S tier, but it's going to be the very bottom of S tier, even below the Dragon Scale Blade, which I think is a more fair weapon, and I had very good experience beating people using Moonveil with it. And then we have Morgoth's Curse Sword. That's another S tier weapon. It has a really good weapon art for PvP, in that if you catch them with any part of the first bit of the weapon art, you will land the second part of the weapon art, and you'll get it probably half, 2/3 of their health down. And I'm going to put it actually, let's do it above Moonveil, and we'll put Carrion Regal at the bottom. Excuse me, I must cough. Okay. Sorry, I'm a smoker. So let's see, Moonveil, Morgoth's. Okay, this is the Nox Flowing Hammer and Sword. Never used either, and never seen either in PvP, so we're not going to even give an opinion on those ones. And then we have the Onyx Lord's Greatsword, which I actually have seen just a little bit of play from it, but not very good. We're going to put it above the Longhorns and the Grafted Dragon, and it's a C tier. Womp womp. So next up, we have the Ornamental Straight Sword. Oh no, we have Ordovis's Greatsword first, then the Ornamental. Ordovis's Greatsword is pretty decent, actually. It's got a decent weapon art. It's not a weapon I see in PvP regularly, but it's definitely one of those ones that's fun to use, you know. People want to roleplay as Crucible Knights. Sometimes that's fun. Womp womp goes in B tier, and it'll go right above Alabaster Lord's Sword. I think they're pretty similar. The Ornamental Straight Sword is a really fun early weapon you can get, and due to its early PvP potential and its just general game potential if you can get it early, I'm going to put it in A tier, surprisingly, right below Loretta's Warsickle. So we got the bottom of A tier with the Ornamental, top of S tier with Dark Moon Greatsword and Magma Blade. These weapons are indisputably incredible. And it looks like we are down to the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 26 weapons. Okay, not bad. So I will finish this before I have work. Reduvia. Reduvia is next. Now, I've heard Reduvia is apparently a really big counter to Rivers of Blood in that it has higher range than Rivers of Blood and a similar bleed stacking weapon art. Reduvia is good, and it's fun. It's got a fast moveset. It's definitely better than the Black Knife, so I'm gonna put that right above Frozen Needle, below the Halo Scythe. And I really do think that all of these are better than it, but it still gets an A tier spot. And I think the next is the Ringed Finger. Yep, never used. Never used it and never seen it before. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Rivers of Blood. Now, if there was ever a weapon that has ever been as controversial in a Souls game over the years, and I'm talking like, forget about giant dad Havel backflipping. Rivers of Blood single-handedly broke the meta. Like, to this day, I mean, if you can't parry, you're not gonna beat someone using Rivers of Blood unless you also have Rivers of Blood and you started your spam first of Corpse Piler. Corpse Piler is a 5-hit combo, by the way. You have 2 slashes, and the final slash. If you get hit by all 5 slashes, guess what? The corpse that just got piled is you. And if you're not using Rivers of Blood against someone using Rivers of Blood, you better really hope that you know how to parry and that your connection is good. Because that's the only way you're gonna win. Or maybe you are dual wielding colossal giant hammers and you just, you know, pulverize them actually into the ground like a nail with a hammer. So of course I have to put Rivers of Blood in S tier. Now I don't like doing that, and I don't like that I had to put every katana in the S tier except for Hand of Malenia. But that's really how this game is. I mean, they didn't give us a lot of katanas, but the ones they gave us are absolutely phenomenal as far as damage, moveset, and weapon art. Next up, we have Rosas's Axe. Never used it. Never seen it. Goodbye. And then we have the two slightly better variants of the crystal weapons. So I'm just going to toss these with them. The Rotten Crystal Sword and the Rotten Crystal Spear I will put just right above the normal Crystal Sword and Spear, as you can see here, and they're basically duplicate looking arts. But the reason is that, I mean, the Rotten weapons, they apply Scarlet Rot, which is pretty decent. Next up we have the Ruins Greatsword. This weapon has really, really pissed me off in PvP, I'm not even gonna lie. When I am invading and I'm going against gankers, the Ruins Greatsword has really colossally made me angry. First off, you can't parry it. It's a colossal, so get that out of your head. Second of all, the weapon art is basically a magical version of Blasphemous Blade. I mean, it sends a massive long-range shockwave out. It's not hard to dodge, but it's hard to dodge if you're fighting 3 people. Especially if one of them is using Moonveil, one's using the Ruins Greatsword, and the other guy, probably the host, is running away using Rivers of Blood, or they're using Blasphemous Blade. So as far as PvP annoyance, I have to drop this in the very top of A tier. And the next one is the Scepter of the All-Knowing, which has the grace of going to the very bottom of Never Used It tier and Never Seen It. Then we have the Scorpion Stinger, which... Oh, I do have Serpent Bone Blade. here. Sick. Okay, good. Well, that's another S tier weapon in the making. So we have the Scorpion Stinger. It's a dagger. I'm not, sorry. Just gotta look this one up real quick. Elden Ring. Da, 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 da. I want to be sure about this one before I rank it. Because I think... Okay, yes. The Scorpion Stinger has Scarlet Rot buildup. And it has the repeating thrust, Ash of War, which is pretty nice, actually. So... Due to the fact that it has Scarlet Rot and it's a pretty basic weapon, I'm going to put it right above the Rotten Crystal weapons, but below whatever this katana was. Meteor Horblade, probably, if I didn't put it in S tier. It's a fine weapon. It's not one I ever see in PvP, but if someone saw it, it doesn't seem like it would give that much of a struggle. And let's just move on. What is this axe? Oh wait, never mind. I already ranked that. We're at the Serpent God Curve Sword. I have seen this one actually in PvP a few times. It's got a pretty nice, unique moveset as far as weapons, and I'm gonna drop it in the... We're gonna put it above Marika's Hammer, but we're not gonna quite drop it in the A tier because I don't think it deserves it, truly. Serpent Hunter. Nobody uses this in PvP. Put this shit to rest. I mean, it's for Rykard. That's really it. Serpent Bone Blade. S tier, but it's going to go right below Rivers of Blood, and here is why. So the Serpent Boneblade actually shares Rivers of Blood's weapon art, however, it's minus the blood. So it has the double slash, it has the 5-hit slashing combo, but it's much more fair because it doesn't have triple the extended range or do bleed. It's a basic katana. It's got a double slash that can punish you if you get close, and it can roll catch you after a parry or a backstab or what have you, which makes it very nice, and it has built-in poison. Now, it's not Scarlet Rot, it's just poison, so poison buildup isn't that big of a deal in PvP unless it's really coming down to the wire and you're trying to run them out of health. But I had a lot of fun PvPing with this weapon, and I was getting consistently probably an 80% win rate using it, even against people with Rivers of Blood. So I think Rivers of Blood is better, but I like Serpent Boneblade more. And then we have, I think that's Celeria's Tree, right? Yeah, Celeria's Tree. I do see it in PvP, but not very often, and when I do, it's pretty easy to beat. We're gonna drop that to the bottom of B tier. Oh, baby. And now we have two of my favorite weapons in the game. Now, Saint Trina's Sword is the only weapon in the game that will inflict sleep. Now, I say weapon loosely because the torch also inflicts sleep, but the torch does basically no damage. But, if you've seen my Saint Trina's Sword.exe video, this weapon was handing people their ass. I mean, you can just get slow pokes on them over the course of a fight, and then after you finally land the sleep, you can do a jumping attack. Or, I didn't do this, but I've seen other people do this. You sleep someone, and you swap to a heavy, and you smack them with a jumping attack for like 1,000 damage. Great weapon, good dagger moveset, it's fast, it does the sleep mist with its Ash of War, which if an enemy's jumping in on you and you throw the sleep mist, they're going to sleep. It's as simple as that. It will fully hit them, and they will die. And St. Trina's Torch, likewise, it's going to go to right below the Ruins Greatsword, because it's not quite as good, but it does blow the sleep fire from it. So it's a pretty good combo if you use both. I think I did I had St. Trina's Sword, and then I had a shield to parry, and then I had it in my offhand if I just needed to apply more sleep, because the torch itself applies better sleep percentage than the sword. Then we have Radahn's sword, Star Scourge Greatsword. I've seen a lot of this in PvP. There's a lot of people role-playing as Radahn, and I'm gonna give it its due. I can put it above St. Trina's Torch in the A tier. It has its own built-in Gravitas, but it's a little bit better than Gravitas because it actually has a follow-up slam combo. It's just really hard to hit that slam combo. But if it does, you're gonna do very good damage with it. So now, this one might be a surprise, but this is the Sword of Night and Flame, a weapon that was also very controversial in being the easy mode weapon of the game. It has two Ashes of War, essentially. You either have, I think, the heavy Ash of War that might do Comet Azure for a little bit, and then the other one does a big Path of Flames, or a Flame Burst. I never see this in PvP. Never once have seen it in PvP. Um, so it's gonna go just middle of B tier for being a good PvE weapon and a bad PvP weapon, straight up. I've never used it, but I know plenty about it because it's a controversial meta weapon in PvE. Sword of Milas, I know Sword of Milas has a very respectable fan base of people that do like it. I have never used it, but I'll put it at the top of never used it because I've heard it's good. Same with Var's Bouquet. Never used it, but I've never seen this one either, so it goes to the bottom. Next one's a pretty fun one. This is the Venomous Fang. I've never seen this in PvP, but I really would like to. If someone was dual wielding Venomous Fangs, I think that would be a cool build. It has a built-in quick step. It does default poison damage. And that's basically all I have to say about it. I'll put it in B tier, but I'll put it at the top of B tier. Because I think it really has better potential than like the Serpent God Sword or the Red Brand. Maybe we'll put Black Knife higher now, because I feel like Black Knife deserves it. Make sure everything is in a good order here that I am happy with. I'm gonna put Blade of Culling, Hand of Melania higher. Same with Bolt, Eleonora's, specifically the Godskin Stitcher. Oh, and Bloody Healus should be at the top. Okay. The Veteran's Prosthesis. I have seen this twice in PvP. One of the times was in one of my videos, actually. I think the parrying video. This weapon's not good. It's going bottom of B tier below Siluria's Tree even, because I don't respect this weapon, truly. And that next weapon is Vike's War Spear. This is a weapon, let me tell you. First of all, I think it's the only... Like how St. Trina's is the only sleep weapon, I believe this is one of the only madness-inflicting weapons in the game. And I've seen it a lot in PvP, and it's been very, very strong. It is a great weapon to dual wield. It has a good weapon art with really good range on it. And if you get hit by the whole impact of the weapon art, you're fucked, basically. So I'll put it in B tier, or A tier, but I'm going to put it up at the very top, above Bloody Healus even. And I do like Bloody Healus more. Like I said earlier, here we have come to Wing of Estelle. Now, Wing of Estelle, earlier I compared it to Bastard Stars, which currently is down in B tier. Wing of Estelle is an A tier weapon. It's very good in PvP. It almost has like a Reduvia, but a magic Reduvia, and I'm going to put it right below Reduvia for that reason. It's got the dagger moveset, same as Magma Blade or any of the others, or Reduvia, and then it throws the magic bolts, which have good stagger. They come out pretty fast. The read is a little difficult sometimes. That's about all she wrote. We only have 3 left, wow. God, this would have taken way longer if I had every weapon in the game. So, here's the Wing Scythe. Oh, I'm yawning, I need Red Bull now. Ah. Whew, the Wing Scythe. The Wing Scythe, I've seen a fair amount of play from it in PvP, actually. And it's good, it's got a good moveset, the weapon art's fine, it's good for, I would say especially catching the ranged users. Anyone using bows or magic specifically really gets messed up by this thing. And sure, the bolts are easy to dodge, but if you don't know how to dodge them, you're gonna die pretty quickly. So we'll put it right above... We'll put it right below the Blade of Calling and above... No. Below Bolt of Grand Sax. That's final offer. And, a very anticlimactic ending to this video. The Winged Greathorn and the Zammer Curved Sword. I've never seen them and I've never used them. So, there they are. So my S tier weapons, you will witness true horror from every one of these weapons. I mean, oh, who the fuck's honking? Hope that didn't capture in the mic. Anyway, we have all the katanas for the most part. We have the Dragon Scale Blade, Morgoth's Curse Sword, Rivers of Blood, Moonveil, Serpent Bone Blade, Carrion Regal, Saint Trina's. Most of the weapons I've used in my videos are my S tier weapons for a reason. I mean, they're really fun to use, and you know, if I was gonna put one single shield on this list, it would be the Rift Shield that I use in most of my videos. I don't know what it is, I cannot parry with target shields or bucklers. I need a medium shield to be able to parry well in PvP. And I don't expect that to change anytime soon. So this is my list. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun to make, and it took me a long time to gather all these images and make this tier list, so if you enjoyed the video, please do not forget to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments, you know, what you would have changed in this list. Let me know what your S tier weapons are. Let me know if you think any of my S tier weapons are F tier. I mean, maybe I should put some of these foolish weapons to rest. Anyway, I will see you in the next video. Hopefully an Elden Ring PvP video.